Today I will show a classic strategy of dynamic hedging based on my options portfolio with an underlying asset of the Moscow Exchange stocks. Data for the underlying asset can be exported from the Phenom portal, and the data for the options can be exported from the MOEX website only. I have uploaded all the data into Excel sheet for the simplicity of calculations, and my first step is to estimate the volatility of an underlying asset using the SMA method, which gives me the result of 20%. Now for the options portfolio. My base assumption is that the portfolio should be delta neutral at step 1 of the time period. I have arranged a portfolio of 5 options, 2 of which are call options and 3 put options. I have arranged the weights in order to make the portfolio delta neutral. The result is 17% of the first call option, 7% of the second call option, and so on. Now I am ready to move on to dynamic hedging of my portfolio. Before that, I would like to remind that according to the Black-Scholes-Merton theory, the number of underlying asset which we buy or sell for each option should be equal to the delta coefficient of that option. Back to dynamic hedging. Due to the change in price of the underlying asset, we can see that the delta coefficient of the portfolio also changes. According to the theory that I mentioned before, I have to sell or buy a certain amount of stocks of the underlying asset in order to make the delta coefficient go back to being delta neutral. As you can see, in order to make my portfolio delta neutral again, I have purchased 148 stocks of the underlying asset on the 25th of February. This process is repeated at each step of the time period. Now, since my options are American, we have to take into account the possibility of expirations before the maturity date. So let's check that. As we can see, in the expiration check table, there is no positive dynamic in the call options. And we can see also that the best date to expire the put option is the maturity date. Now for the results. As we can see, the cost of the initial portfolio is just under 30,000 rubles. The loss that we get from hedging is just under 100,000 rubles, which gives us a total profit of our actions of 31,500 rubles. But there is also another possibility. We could theoretically assemble a portfolio and do nothing. In this case, we get a profit of 127,000 rubles. But let's consider a thinking manager who considers the changes in the market. For that, we will move back to the expiration check. The trend on the market at that time was that the market was falling. A thinking manager should, in this case, immediately sell the call options. In our table, it is visible that the best time to sell the call options is the 17th of February. As for the put options, it is best to keep them until the expiration date at the date of maturity. To be honest, it is highly unlikely that anyone will buy the call options, which leaves us with one possibility: we have to expire them. The loss from expiring call options on the 17th of February will be 1,390 rubles. From that point, we simply wait for the expiration of the put options. Back to the results. In this scenario, the total profit is 126,000 rubles, which amounts to 430% of the initial cost of the portfolio. If we proceed with automatic hedging of our portfolio and do not take into account the falling market, we will get the result of 31,000 rubles, which is just 107% of the initial cost of the portfolio. It is still profitable, but it is 4 times less if we used our head.